I said in the intro, he basically invented talk radio. I mean, it existed before Rush, but in that field, there's Rush Limbaugh, and then there's everybody else.
Rush had a unique talent. He came prepared he was fired multiple times for trying to be the person that he wanted to be on the air, for injecting his personality when program directors didn't want the personality injected. Mm-hmm. Strong about his own ideas of what radio should be. He left radio for a while and went to work for the Kansas City Royals. He decided he was going to give radio one more shot. And when that opportunity came, it was in Sacramento for him. He took it, and he was given the license to just be himself, to do what he wanted to do. And the show exploded in Sacramento. And that's when Ed McLaughlin and his other broadcast partners that saw what was taking place in that show decided, this is a show that we want to syndicate. Now, Megyn, in radio, one of the rules, quote unquote, rules at the time was you don't put a syndicated program on in midday because no one is going to really listen to it. Within months of that show being on the air, the number of stations started multiplying like crazy. The number of listeners started growing. First 1 million, then 3, then 5 million a week, up until the time Rush died. The show was still growing. 33 years later, there was still new audience coming in. It is a remarkable feat that nobody in our radio profession, and we have some great people in talk radio, great people with lots of talent. And by the way, you're one of them now.
That's right. I crossed over.
Yes. Yes, with immense talent. But nobody could do radio like Rush did. He understood every single nuance that a radio performer, because it is a performance, you're on a radio stage, you're there talking to a microphone, maybe 2 or 3 people in the room looking at you while you're doing it. Or with cameras, with now millions of people perhaps looking, but he knew every element of that business. He could make, and even those of us on the staff joke about this, how he can make almost anything, the most mundane topic that he found interesting, he could persuade you that it was interesting for you.
That's right. That's right.
It's just a remarkable talent. As he used to say, I was born to host and you were born to listen. Well, he used to say it in jest, but I really do believe, going back to what you said about God preparing you for things in your life, God gave him the tools to be as persuasive as he was and to have that his tool set shine uniquely.
Doug and I went down there and visited Rush a couple of times, and at his home, and saw him in front of a group of people, and then on his marriage to Catherine. And one thing I can tell you, the audience, about Rush, you've seen it many times, James, is whereas some of us, we can get up in front of a crowd and we can handle speaking in front of a crowd, may not love it. You watch Rush Limbaugh do it, and you do realize the difference between an introvert and an extrovert. He thrived on it. He came alive in front of people. His chest would puff out and his energy would shoot up and his body language got big. And you just saw this larger than life figure rally the troops to do anything. You were willing to do anything. Whatever he wanted you to do, you would do it, because he was, in a way, a great salesman for whatever the cause was. But it was inspirational as a matter of public speaking. For me as a public figure, I was like, this is it. He's got it.
Yeah, and that's something no one can teach you. You either have it, that thing, or you don't. No one can teach you how to not have butterflies in your stomach when you're pricked, or not have it. No one can teach you how to read an audience, to see and make adjustments to how you're speaking, or to whether the audience is absorbing what you're saying or not. Those are all the things that he could do. He could be in an audience situation, really understand what it is that he needed to do to be persuasive. And he would do that. Mm-hmm. And he was also so quick-witted. But see, Megyn, you know this, both in your broadcast career, but I suspect, Megyn, that you know this even from your career in the law. None of that comes without preparation.
That's
All
right.
of those hours by yourself, reading, preparing, becoming more knowledgeable about your subject matter, maybe even reading things and you're not quite sure how it's going to be used someday. All of that counts, because in those moments you draw on everything that you innately know in that moment. And that's what Rush was able to do extremely well. And he never stopped preparing for his show. He never handed off those duties to anyone else. He spent hours every single day that he did a radio show. He spent hours and hours preparing for it.
Yeah. And he talked about how he understood people loved him. His audience loved him. He said it was surpassed only by his love for his audience. But I would say it must have been damn near equal, because one of the thoughts, I had forgotten about this, James, but tell us about what happened when they tried to boycott Rush. It was the Florida Orange Juice Commission that was running. I guess they spent $1 million advertising its product on Rush's program, and then a group of feminists got upset. And tell us what happened.
This was remarkable because this was early on in the program. This is while the program was still in quote unquote its infancy. The Florida Orange Juice Commission was the first $1 million sponsor to the program, which was a big deal. They came up, they had meetings, they had decided, okay, we want to advertise on this show. They did it. Before the advertising started, Patricia Ireland and what later Rush would call the NAGs, the National Association of Gals, but was the National Organization of Women,
right,
decided that they were going to run a quote-unquote nationwide boycott on Florida orange juice. They went to Florida in an attempt to begin the rally. They were surprised because what they were met with were people, Rush Limbaugh fans, who had beat them to their location and had bought out every single container of orange juice in the store that they were holding their boycott. Where they went after that, they were met with Rush Limbaugh fans who cleaned the shelves of orange juice in support. I think this was important because this was also the first time that I think we saw that the left was hollow.